Hey guys! So today we're going to start lesson 7.4, Structures and Organelles. I'm sure you guys are already very familiar with this lesson because you probably learned it before, but we are going to get into a little bit more detail in this here in grade 9. Alright, so our focus question, what are the structures and their functions in prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells? So you guys remember, I think in lesson 7.1, we described the difference between prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells. You know that prokaryotic cells are cells that are unicellular, they're like bacteria, they're very small, and they're very simple. Eukaryotic cells, on the other hand, are usually a lot larger. I know this picture does not show that accurately, but they are larger, they're more complex, they contain organelles, and they're usually going to be found as multicellular organisms, even though they can also be unicellular. So for example, humans are made up of eukaryotic cells. Animals and plants are also made up of different types of eukaryotic cells. All right, so you've probably seen a few of these words before, and we're going to get into what they are throughout this week. All right, so the first thing we're going to look at in the cell is not actually a structure. It's the jelly-like liquid found inside of every type of cell, okay? Cytoplasm is universal. You're going to find it in prokaryotic cells and eukaryotic cells. And under eukaryotic cells, plant cells and animal cells and everything. For you to be considered a cell, you need to have cytoplasm inside of your cell membrane, okay? So just so you know, eukaryotic cells have organelles, prokaryotic cells do not, but both of them have cytoplasm, a cell membrane, and DNA. Okay, so as you can see here, in a eukaryotic cell, you have a cell membrane, you have cytoplasm, and then you have your DNA. Here you also have a cell membrane, cytoplasm, and DNA. Here it just says nucleoid. That just means that it's a bunch of DNA put together. But you can see the difference that in eukaryotic cells, the DNA is inside of a nucleus. It's protected and stored there, so the nucleus can control what part of the DNA is turned on and what part of the DNA is turned off. Therefore, the nucleus helps to control the cell because it controls the DNA of the cell. But if you look at a prokaryotic cell, you're not going to see any organelles. You're only going to see a bunch of DNA in the middle, and it's not inside of a nucleus. It's just floating freely in the cytoplasm. All right? So, in general, prokaryotic cells are going to be smaller, so they're like bacteria, and they're always going to be unicellular, meaning that an organism that is prokaryotic is only ever going to be made up of one cell. Okay? When we look at eukaryotic cells, they're usually larger and they're more complex. And the fact that they have all of this complexity and all of this organization means that they are able to create more complex organisms. So for example, we are made up of eukaryotic cells because for you to become this large and for this level of organization to be found in your body, you have to have a very organized system all the way down to your cells, right? All right, but remember, eukaryotic cells can also be unicellular. So for example, yeast is a unicellular eukaryotic cell. It has a nucleus, it has organelles, it's just not multicellular. The last structure that is found in all cells, aside from the cell membrane, cytoplasm, and DNA, are structures called ribosomes. See these little blue dots? You will find these in every type of cell you look at, and that's because they build proteins. They have an extremely important job, and without ribosomes, cells could not do most of the things that they're supposed to be able to do. All right, so cells need to be able to perform all of these tasks, all types of cells. They need to be able to digest food, create energy, build proteins, transport material, remove waste from their body, and perform cell division, right? Now, in a eukaryotic cell, each one of these jobs is done in a specific compartment called an organelle. So if I look over here, I can see the mitochondria, its job is to create energy for the cell. So it takes sugar, breaks it down, and makes ATP, which the cell can use for anything that it needs energy for, right? So in our previous lesson, we talked about active transport. Where do we get that ATP? From the mitochondria. We can also see that there is a nucleus. Its job is to control the cell, tell the cell what to do and how to behave. We also have a structure called an endoplasmic reticulum, which we will get into later. Its main job is to create proteins. So you can see that every one of these jobs is compartmentalized into its own specific organelle. While if you look at a prokaryotic cell, it doesn't have organelles. All of these jobs are happening randomly throughout the cytoplasm wherever a protein is found. So maybe there's a protein that generates energy or breaks down something or removes waste. It'll be somewhere in this jelly. It's not specific to a certain location, and this is why prokaryotic cells are somewhat less organized, and that's why they're considered simpler than eukaryotic cells. All right, and if I compare the two, I can see these are both eukaryotic cells, right? They both have a nucleus, they both have organelles, they're both more complex, and they can both create multicellular organisms, okay? So eukaryotic cells can be broken down into two main parts, plant cells and animal cells. And for the most part, plant cells and animal cells are made up of almost all the same stuff. They both have ribosomes, nucleus, endoplasmic reticulum, cell membranes, and Golgi apparatus, right? And they also both have a mitochondria. So a lot of people think, oh, mitochondria is for animal cells and plants have the chloroplast, but that's not true. Mitochondria is in both cells, plants and animals, okay? It's because it's a very important organelle and it's responsible for creating energy. Now, something that is unique to animal cells is this structure called a lysosome, which we will get into a little bit later. And you guys probably remember some of these plant cell organelles or structures. Plant cells have a central vacuole, which is filled with water. They also have chloroplasts, which allow them to do photosynthesis, and they have a cell wall surrounding their cell membrane. Yes, remember, all cells have a cell membrane. Plants just have the added feature of having a wall surrounding their membrane, which gives them an extra layer of support. And this is why trees can grow so tall, because they have so much support there. All right, so now guys, good luck and go ahead and do your quiz.